Thank you so much, Michael. I must say I have enjoyed working with Michael as we've made this transition from Nano ImpactNet into QNano. I couldn't have wished for a better colleague, and of course he remains de facto in the same role as he was, but I think it is also clear that QNano will represent a quantum change in this kind of style of activities, and being able to gather in all of the Nano ImpactNet family and Nano ImpactNet benefits smoothly is entirely up to Michael and his team. Thank you, Michael. I suppose the first question is why a research infrastructure is necessary at all. Research infrastructures are not funded in the normal sense as research projects. They are, in fact, specific tools of the European Commission to try to build some both conceptual, human and material infrastructure around a field where it is needed, where it is appreciated that it is needed. And I think few of us doubt that it was needed in this area. I think there's almost no one in this room who doubts the importance of nanoscience and nanotechnology for our future. I think we are all convinced that it can materially advance and improve our lives, that it can stimulate economies, that it can address key things about the green economy, about unresolved health issues, and we see it beginning to do so. We see the first and early treatments of glioblastoma approved by the European Medicines Agency and the FDA. This is a field that is beginning to make a difference. Nevertheless, I think it is also widely acknowledged that there are roadblocks for a very broad and expansive inclusion of nanotechnology into our society. There has been some uncertainty in relation to the safety of nanomaterials. I would emphasize that that uncertainty is in many cases simply that. It might not be, in fact, in many cases that there is a lack of safety. But I wish to emphasize very strongly that the uncertainty itself is sufficient to represent a roadblock. And there are safety issues, genuinely, that we need to address. I think there's also very clearly an uncertainty in how to regulate nanomaterials, and that you've seen a very controversial topic. Now, underlying these, if you might, like very generic roadblocks to absolute success of nanotechnology in its widest possible form, I think we all know that there have been some sources of scientific uncertainty which have manifested themselves in entirely different ways than any of us might have expected. Most of us are well accustomed to having problems in science. We very rarely get to hear about them in the New York Times. And that is what has happened in this field. It has been appreciated that this arena offers such potential, that every little glitch and mistake and concern that we make in the scientific community is picked up in the press. Every little concern we have has been picked up in the press. And these sources of scientific uncertainty, I don't intend to go into in a great deal of detail, but they are significant. And I highlight simply one, which is that it is still difficult to assure ourselves and others, and as it is for industry, that separate batches of nominally identical materials are in fact identical. And to this day we still buy materials, for example, nominally the same, and we recognize that they vary. Now obviously this is a situation that will not allow us to have very widespread acceptance. And I emphasize that this need not in itself always be a matter of safety, but it is simply that with that sort of issue of quality hanging over our heads, we cannot gain that acceptance. What is QNano? Well, it's a research infrastructure, as I said. It started on 1st of February. It has essentially 50 corresponding centres from around Europe. And it has 3 units of activity, including research, networking, and transnational access. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail shortly. Our aim here is to create a neutral scientific and technical space. Neutral is an important word. It's because in a field that is growing, where there is still uncertainty, necessarily there will be controversy. And rather than having that controversy discussed in the New York Times, or indeed the London Times or some other European newspaper, it is best that it is discussed, harnessed, and rationalized within our community. It is therefore essential from the beginning that this project this infrastructure does not take a view a priori on any particular issue. It is a space in which those views can be evolved and clarity acquired. And so that issue of neutrality is important. It is, however, an opportunity to create a culture. And about that, all of us are absolutely agreed. This is about a scientific culture that works in excellence, that is committed to excellence, and that will enjoy the process of growing up to be a highly recognized, respectable field of scientific endeavor. And I think that will be a great pleasure in the coming years, especially for young people, to be identified with a field that is not a source of controversy, but a source of achievement and a source of great scientific credit. And I think you see that transformation happening as we speak. We use blind round robins, for example, lots of processes, to ensure that all of the sites of the infrastructure have the same results. These are, again, neutral, non-judgmental processes. Nobody knows if one laboratory doesn't get the right results one day. We keep working with those laboratories until everybody gets the right results. And I have to say that even in a very small achievement for the laboratories of the infrastructure to be able to characterize in a basic way a group of nanomaterials and have exactly the same result, which is what has now been achieved, that is itself a small step forward, given the heterogeneity of the community that we have. QNano is also offering access to leading facilities around Europe. These are facilities that themselves have a high level of competence, but also have equipment. And we offer grants, actually, to allow those things to be accessed. And that will come out a little bit later. Shika, my colleague, will say something about that later. Now, again, I'm not going to say anything much really about the key research challenges. I've already covered some of them. There's this question of reproducibility. There have been a lack in our field so far. We're having positive and negative controls. They have not been widely available. These are technical issues that QNano is in the process of resolving via these instruments. QNano is a neutral scientific space. It is an infrastructure. It is there for support. We do not intend to engage in, take part in controversy, but we intend to build, as I emphasized, a culture where that controversy is no longer necessary. Now, I want to end my presentation by saying to you in QNano, and those of you that are not yet strongly engaged in it, that I have coordinated a number of very large projects, but in fact this is my largest. I've never had to coordinate a 50 institute partnership before. And I want to pay tribute not just to a few colleagues, but every one of you that has so far been involved. We had a General Assembly meeting this morning, and I reflected something that I think is very important, which I want to share with you. I have not seen previously the degree of cohesion, collegiality, and enthusiasm in any project of this scale before. I feel that we have an excellent start in QNano. and I feel that we have an excellent core partnership. Those of you that are not yet closely tied to it, that are in Nano Impact Net, please don't feel that you are homeless. You are not. You are now part of the same family with another name, a more extended family. And I hope that you will be able to join with this in the coming years in helping build up not just QNano, but the excellence of this field. Thank you for your attention.